During the time that Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, was king of Judah, King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah of Remaliah of Israel attacked Jerusalem. But the attack sputtered out. When the Davidic government learned that Aram had joined forces with Ephraim, that is Israel, Ahaz and his people were badly shaken. They shook like trees in the wind. Then God told Isaiah, "Go and meet Ahaz. Take your son, Shear Jashub, which means a remnant will return, with you. Meet him south of the city at the end of the aqueduct where it empties into the upper pool on the road to the public laundry. Tell him, listen, calm down. Don't be afraid and don't panic over those two burnout cases, Rezin of Aram and the son of Remaliah. They talk big, but there's nothing to them. Aram, along with Ephraim, son of Remaliah, have plotted to do you harm. They've conspired against you, saying, let's go to war against Judah. Dismember it, take it for yourselves, and set the son of Tabeel up as a puppet king over it." But God the Master says it won't happen. Nothing will come of it, because the capital of Aram is Damascus, and the king of Damascus is a mere man, Rezin. As for Ephraim, in 65 years it will be rubble, nothing left of it. The capital of Ephraim is Samaria, and the king of Samaria is the mere son of Remaliah. If you don't take your stand, you won't have a leg to stand on. God spoke again to Ahaz. This time he asked, ask for a sign from God. Ask anything, be extravagant. Ask for the moon. But Ahaz said, I'd never do that. I'd never make demands like that on God. So Isaiah told him, then listen to this, government of David. It's bad enough that you make people tired with your pious, timid hypocrisies, but now you're making God tired? So the master is going to give you a sign anyways. Watch for this. A girl who's presently a virgin will get pregnant. She'll bear a son and name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. By the time the child is 12 years old, able to make moral decisions, the threat of war will be over. Relax. Those two kings that have you so worried will be out of the picture. But also be warned, God will bring on you and your people and your government a judgment worse than anything since the time the kingdom split, when Ephraim left Judah. The king of Assyria is coming. That's when God will whistle for the flies at the headwaters of Egypt's Nile and whistle for the bees in the land of Assyria. They'll come and infest every nook and cranny of this country. There'll be no getting away from them. And that's when the master will take the razor rented from across the Euphrates, the king of Assyria, no less, and shave the hair of your heads and genitals, leaving you shamed, exposed, and denuded. He'll shave off your beards while he's at it. There will be a time when survivors will count themselves lucky to have a cow and a couple of sheep. At least they'll have plenty of milk. Whosoever is left in the land will learn to make do with the simplest foods, curds, whey, and honey. But that's not the end of it. The country that used to be covered with fine vineyards, thousands of them worth millions, will revert to a weed patch, weeds and thorn bushes everywhere. Good for nothing except perhaps hunting rabbits. Cattle and sheep will forage as best they can in the fields of weeds, but there won't be a trace of all those fertile and well-tended gardens and fields. Isaiah 8. Then God told me, get a big sheet of paper and write in indelible ink, this belongs to Mahir Shalal Hashbaz, which means spoil, speeds, plunder, hurries. I got two honest men, Uriah the priest and Zechariah, son of Zeberechiah, to witness the document. Then I went home to my wife, the prophetess. She conceived and gave birth to a son. God told me, name him Mahar Shalal Hashbaz. Before that baby says daddy or mama, the king of Assyria will have plundered the wealth of Damascus and the riches of Samaria. God spoke to me again, saying, because his people has turned its back on the gently flowing stream of Shiloh and gotten all excited over Rezin and the son of Remaliah, I'm stepping in and facing them with the wild floodwaters of the Euphrates. The king of Assyria and all his fanfare, river and flood, bursting its banks, pouring into Judah, sweeping on everything before it, water up to your necks, a huge wingspan of a raging river, O Emmanuel, spreading across your land. But face the facts, all you oppressors, and then wring your hands. Listen, all of you far and near. Prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Yes, prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Plan and plot all you want. Nothing will come of it. All your talk is mere talk, empty words. Because when all is said and done, the last word is Emmanuel, meaning God with us. A boulder blocking your way. God spoke strongly to me, grabbed me with both hands and warned me not to go along with this people. He said, don't be like this people, always afraid somebody is plotting against them. Don't fear what they fear. Don't take on their worries. If you're going to worry about the holy. Fear the God of the angel armies. The holy can be either a hiding place or a boulder blocking your way. The rock standing in the willful way of both houses of Israel, a barbed wire fence preventing trespass to the citizens of Jerusalem. Many of them are going to run into that rock and get their bones broken, get tangled up in that barbed wire and not get free of it. Gather up the testimony, preserve the teaching for my followers while I wait for God as long as he remains in hiding. While I wait and hope for him, I stand my ground in hope. I and the children of God gave me as signs to Israel, warning signs and hope signs from God of the angel armies who makes his home in Mount Zion. When people tell you, try out the fortune tellers, consult the spiritualists, why not tap into the spirit world? Get in touch with the dead. Tell them, no, we're going to study the scriptures. People who try the other ways get nowhere, a dead end, frustrated and famished. They try one thing after another. When nothing works out, they get angry, cursing first this God and then that one, looking this way and that, up and down and sidewise, and seeing nothing. A blank wall, an empty hole. They end up in the dark with nothing. Isaiah 9, a child has been born for us. But there'll be no darkness for those who were in trouble. Earlier, he did bring the lands of Zebulun and Naphtali in disrepute. But the time is coming when he'll make that whole area glorious. The road along the sea, the country past the Jordan, international Galilee. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. For those who lived in the land of deep shadows, light, sunbursts of light. You repopulated the nation. You expanded its joy. Oh, they're so glad in your presence. Festival joy, the joy of a great celebration. Sharing rich gifts and warm greetings. The abuse of oppressors and cruelty of tyrants, all their whips and clubs and curses is gone, done away with. A deliverance as surprising and sudden as Gideon's old victory over Midian. The boots of all those invading troops, along with their shirts soaked with innocent blood, will be piled up in a heap and burned. A fire that will burn for days. For a child has been born for us, a gift of a son for us. He'll take over the running of the world. His names will be Amazing Counselor, Strong God, Eternal Father, Prince of Wholeness. His ruling authority will grow, and there'll be no limits to the wholeness he brings. He'll rule from the historic David throne over that promised kingdom. He'll put that kingdom on a firm footing and keep it going. With fair dealing and right living, beginning now and lasting always, the zeal of the God of the angel armies will do this. God answered fire with fire. The master sent a message against Jacob. It landed right on Israel's doorstep. All the people soon heard the message. Ephraim and the citizens of Samaria. But they were a proud and arrogant bunch. They dismissed the message saying, things aren't that bad. We can handle anything that comes. If our buildings are knocked down, we'll build them bigger and finer. If our forests are cut down, we'll replant them with finer trees. So God incited their adversaries against them, stirred up their enemies to attack from the east, Arameans, from the west, Philistines. They made hash of Israel, but even after that, he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. But the people paid no mind to him who hit them, didn't seek God. So God hacked off Israel's head and tail, palm branches and reed, both on the same day. The big-headed elders were the head, the lying prophets were the tail. Those who were supposed to lead his people led them down blind alleys, and those who followed the leaders ended up lost and confused. That's why the master lost interest in the young men. He had no feeling for their orphans and widows. All of them were godless and evil, taking filth and folly. And even after that, he was still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. Their wicked lives raged out like a out-of-control fire, the kind that burns everything in its path, trees and bushes, weeds and grasses, filling the skies with smoke. God of the angel armies answered fire with fire, set the whole country on fire, turned the people into consuming fires, consuming one another in their lusts, appetites, insatiable, stuffing and gorging themselves, left and right with people and things. But still they starved. Not even their children were safe from their greedy hunger. Manasseh ate Ephraim, and Ephraim Manasseh, and then the two ganged up against Judah. And after that, he was still angry, his fist raised, ready to hit them again. Isaiah 10, you who legislate evil. Doom to you who legislate evil, who make laws that make victims, laws that make misery for the poor, that rob my destitute people of dignity, exploiting defenseless widows, taking advantage of homeless children. What will you have to say on Judgment Day when doomsday arrives out of the blue? Who will get to help you? Who will you get to help you? What good will your money do you? A sorry sight you'll be then, huddled with prisoners or just some corpses stacked in the street. Even after all this, God is still angry, his fist still raised, ready to hit them again. Doomed to Assyria, weapon of my anger. My wrath is a club in his hands. I sent him against a godless nation, against the people I'm angry with. I command him to strip them clean, rob them blind, and then push their faces in the mud and leave them. But Assyria has another agenda. He has something else in mind. He's out to destroy utterly, to stamp out as many nations as he can. Assyria says, aren't my commanders all kings? Can't they do whatever they like? Didn't I destroy Calno as well as Karshemish, Hamath as well as Arpad? Level Samaria as I did Damascus. I've eliminated kingdoms full of gods. Far more impressive than anything in Jerusalem and Samaria. So what's to keep me from destroying Jerusalem? In the same way I destroyed Samaria and all her god idols. When the master is finished dealing with Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he'll say, now it's Assyria's turn. I'll punish the bragging arrogance of the king of Assyria, his high and mighty posturing, the way he goes around saying, I've done all this by myself. I'm no more than anyone. I've wiped out the boundaries of the whole countries. I've walked in and taken anything I wanted. I charged in like a bull and toppled their kings from their thrones. I reached out my hand and took all that they've treasured, as easily as a boy taking a bird's egg from a nest. Like a farmer gathering eggs from the hen house, I gathered the world in my basket, and no one so much as fluttered a wing or squawked or even chirped. Does an axe take over the one who swings it? Does a saw act more important than a sawer? And if a shovel did its shoveling by using a ditch digger, as if a hammer used a carpenter to pound nails. Therefore, the master God of the angel armies will send a debilitating disease on this robust Assyrian fighters. Under the canopy of God's bright glory, a fierce fire will break out. Israel's light will burst into conflagration. The holy will explode into a firestorm, and in one day burn to cinders every last Assyrian thorn bush. God will destroy the splendid trees and lush gardens. The Assyrian body and soul will waste away to nothing. Like a disease-ridden invalid, a child could count what's left of the trees on the fingers of his two hands. And on that day also, what's left of Israel, the struggling survivors of Jacob, will no longer be fascinated by abusive and battering Assyria. They'll lean on God, the holy, yes, truly, the ragtag remnant. What's left of Jacob will come back to the strong God. The people Israel were once like the sand on the seashore, but only a scattered few will return. Destruction is ordered, brimming over with righteousness, for the master, God of the angel armies, will finish here what he started all over the globe. Therefore, the master God says, my dear people who live in Zion, don't be terrorized by the Assyrians when they beat you with clubs and threaten you with rods, like the Egyptians once did. In a short time, my anger against you will be spent, and I'll turn my destroying anger on them. I, the God of the angel armies, will go after them with the cat o' nine tails and finish them off decisively, as Gideon downed Midian on the rock of Oreb, as Moses turned the tables on Egypt. On that day, Assyria will be pulled off your back and the yoke of slavery lifted from your neck. Assyria on the move, up from Rimnon onto Aot through Migron. With the Bovak of Michmash, they cross the pass, set camp at Geba for the night. Ramah trembles with fright. Gibeah of Saul is run off. Cry for help, daughter of Gilam. Listen to her, Laish. Do something, Anathoth. Madmenah takes to the hills. The people of Gebim flee in panic. The enemy soon at Nob, nearly there. Inside of the city, he shakes his fist at the mount of dear daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. But now watch this. The master God swings his axe and lops the branches, chops down the giant trees, lays flat the towering forest on the march. His axe will make toothpicks of that forest, that Lebanon-like army reduced to kindling. This is the word of the Lord.